Дорогие друзья, уважаемые коллеги, всем добрый вечер. Приветствуем вас из Русского дома в Madrid. Queridos amigos, estimados colegas, muy buenas tardes a todos. Continuamos nuestras jornadas de investigación artística, un gran proyecto interuniversitario en colaboración entre la comunidad académica española y la Casa Rusa en Madrid. Hoy es la última conferencia de esta temporada, ya es octava conferencia y de verdad que estamos sumamente felices. Hoy hablamos sobre la danza y me alegra muchísimo el hecho de que estén presentes hoy con nosotros dos investigadoras jóvenes de San Petersburgo, Karina Kozlova y Marina Vaganova. Además tenemos a Tiziana Leucci, una gran antropóloga y científica que va a hablar desde París, y nuestro participante prácticamente en cada conferencia, Juan Bockamp. Todos son grandes investigadores en artes escénicas y en ballet en particular. Y paso la palabra a Karina Kozlova, que representa a Academia de Vaganova, San Petersburgo. Karina, спасибо. Можете начинать.
Good evening, dear speakers and guests. So I'm first of all, I have to say that it's a great joy and an honor to participate in this event. So today I'm presenting a report on the topic St. Petersburg, Petersburg Spaniard Nacho Duato, Reflection on the Classical Heritage. Just one second. So in 2010, Nacho Duato celebrated 20 years of his artistic career with a troupe of the Spanish National Dance Theatre. And in July of the same year, he left the post of the director and accepted an invitation to become the artistic director of the Mikhailovsky Theatre in St. Petersburg. So during his official leadership from January 2011 to December 2013 at the Mikhailovsky Theatre, Duato created a total of 10 ballets, 5 original and 5 transferred. So in St. Petersburg, for the first time in his career, Duato turned to the classical ballet heritage. By order to the theatre general director, the choreographer created 3 versions of the brilliant creation of Marius Petipa and Lev Ivanov, The Sleeping Beauty, Nutcracker, and after that, in 2019, La Baïdère. So intriguing news that Nacho Duato was going to stage his own version of the Tchaikovsky Sleeping Beauty came soon after he was appointed artistic director of the Mikhailovsky Ballet Company. Duato, who received worldwide recognition for his one-act abstract production, first decided to create a full-length classical ballet and turned to Tchaikovsky music for the first time. Duato's new 3-act ballet was shown on December 16, 2011 at the Mikhailovsky Theatre. Initially, the choreographer was only going to update a little and rehearse the classical performance. Then, from Duato, a sensational statement sounded that not a single pas of Marius Petipa would remain in his ballet. At the premiere, it immediately became apparent that no absolutely new version has been presented. The choreographer could not refute to quote the choreography of Petipa and his numerous editors, whose works Duato retold in his own words. As the basis of the script, Duato took the libretto by Ivan Vsevolozhsky, written based on the tales of Charles Perrault, which determined the structure of the performance. The plot base of the ballet has remained the same. Due to the reduction of the musical material in the Duato's ballet, the scale has disappeared. But due to this, the dynamism of action increased. He deliberately cut the music down to make the ballet move and lively. At the same time, Duato fills the ballet even more with dance. The traditionally mimic character acquires plasticity. Now the court retinue is dancing, and the king, queen, and Catalapud became active participants in the palace celebration dedicated to the birth of Aurora. So, one more. The biggest change were made to the negative heroine. The image of the fairy Carabosse was solved in a really original way. The fairy is no longer a malevolent old woman, but a young, strong, extravagant, and powerful. The part of the carabosse is dance, not pantomime, and one of the most dynamic in the performance. Carabosse with her hellish retinue, who becomes the center of the performance, leaving even Aurora and the lilac fairy in its shadow. But it directly contradicts Tchaikovsky music, Vsevolovsky concept, and the tradition of performing petit pas ballet, where the main idea is a struggle between good and evil, and the obvious victory of good. Duato trusted the design of the performance of the Serbian artist Angelina Atlagic. She was both a set and costume designer. Styles of the eras arose in the performance, Baroque with an admixture of Rococo and Classicism. In general, Angelina Atlagic's set and costumes are a union of minimalism, elegance, and sophistication. The ballet Sleeping Beauty by Nacho Duato was not successful and was seriously criticized in the press, but it definitely opened a new stage in his creative development. In spite of, after the premiere of The Sleeping Beauty, Nacho Duato continued to explore the territory of the large plot performance. Probably when the Mikhailovsky Theatre ordered the three-act Sleeping Beauty, Duato took this proposal as an individual creative process. To stage a big ballet on a point shoes with classical technique for Duato was obviously a real experiment and a risk. So 2 years have passed, and after that, the Ballet Nutcracker to the music Tchaikovsky became the next stage in the creative development of the Spanish choreographer, where he once again faced the need to work with the technique of classical dance. The world premiere of the Nacho Duato ballet took place on December 12, 2013 at the Mikhailovsky Theatre. Duato denies conceptually changing the canonical storyline in ballet performance. Moreover, as the basis for his own version of the Nutcracker, Duato took the libretto by Marius Petipa, created in 1892, based on the fairy tale at Hoffmann's The Nutcracker and the Mouse King. Duato left the structure of the performance unchanged. The performance by Duato consists of 2 acts. The main difference between Duato ballet and others is that he transferred the first act to the conventional 20th century. Jerome Kaplan, a French set designer with the Russian roots, helped the choreography in this. He placed the action in the years immediately preceding the Russian Revolution. The year 1914 is a key date when Russia and Europe had no idea what a difficult time was coming. Perhaps that is why the scenography gives a feeling of fragility. It looked like it was made of a thin gift paper. And the outfits of ladies and gentlemen, hats, hairstyles, and fans, all this creates the atmosphere of the Art Nouveau style that prevailed in St. Petersburg at the beginning of the last century. The audience enters the home of the Stahlbaum family, celebrating Christmas Eve. Then nights fall, Masha falls asleep with a nutcracker under the tree. And suddenly, mice burst into the room, led by their king. Duato created the original image of the mice, but more comical than frightening. They have a fang sticking out of their lower lip, furry wigs, clothes, long ears, leather jackets, and helmets like a pilot's. And after all, the Nutcracker prince defeats the Mouse King. The first act ends with a duet with Masha and Prince, surrounded by snowflakes with candles burning in their hands. Nacho Duato turned the second act into a concert divertissement. Their dances from different countries follow one after another. The main decoration for almost the entire second act is only the starry sky. On its background, during the divertissement, gigantic attributes on a particular culture appear. In Spanish dance, a red fan hangs. In a Chinese dance, a wooden umbrella is opened. In Oriental dance, a golden reptile crawls across the stage. In a French dance, a herd hangs over the stage. And in a Russian dance, 2 large ships steering wheels appear. During the Waltz of the Flower, cupcake. So all these are Christmas tree decoration increased to incredible sizes. And the culmination of the whole ballet is the pas de deux of the main character, whereas Nutcracker Prince dance perceived as a requiem for the disappearing world of harmony. And Masha wakes up and realizes that it was just a dream. The choreographer subtly fell and conveyed an important Hoffman's motive, the desire to escape from reality, from mechanistic life into a magical fantasy world. With the ballet Nutcracker, Nacho Duato summed up the result of the first Russian period of the creative activity as artistic director of the Mikhailovsky Ballet Company. After that, Duato moved to Berlin. And after 5 years of work at the State Ballet Berlin, a new perspective arose before Duato. And in 2019, another St. Petersburg chapter began, the second Russian period in the creative biography of the Spanish choreographer Nacho Duato, who again headed the artistic direction of the Mikhailovsky Theatre Ballet. The theatre announced the addition of the classical heritage, the ballet La Baudelaire. The theatre director Kechman, again, not interested in a nostalgic preservation of the past, decided to give shine to the legacy and shake off the archaic from the ballet of Marius Petipa. So on October 4th, 2019, the premiere of Nacho Duato's new three-act ballet, La Baudelaire, took place at the stage of the Mikhailovsky Theatre. As the basis of the script, Duato took the libretto Petipa and Sergei Khudikov, which determined the structure of the performance. Thus, the main plot moves of the ballet remain the same. Musical basis of the new La Baudelaire is also the same, composed by Ludwig Minkus, but with significant cuts. Choreographic side of the Duato ballet is striving to combine traditional ballet vocabulary and ethnographic authenticity of the depicted Indian flavor. Duato in this ballet entering an unusual language field, boldly combines the fifth position, arabesque, pas de bourrée, and similar movement with characteristic poses, hand gestures, head and neck movements, which are taken from classical Indian dances, such as Bharatanatyam, Kathak, Manipuri, and others, or from Bollywood movies. In a similar way, Duato rearranged almost the entire first act. In one interview, Duato stated that the first and second acts are the pure form of Duato, but in practice the world diverged from reality. If in the first act an original choreographic solution was found, then in the second act, whole numbers were borrowed. Starting practically from the first half of the second act, the viewers contemplates a familiar pas straight after petit pas, and not just the individual quotes, but the whole numbers and episodes. Not to mention that the entire shadows act is completely left untouched, except for the number of shadows. Instead of 32, was 24. In numerous interviews, Duato doesn't deny the use of the original choreography, noting that they built on the various elements that Petipa has. At the same time, it is interesting that Duato realized his weaknesses as a choreographer as a large plot performances based on the classical point-shoes technique. So Duato notes, the quote, "I'm generally surprised that I have not been expelled from Russia because I'm from Spain and I touch the saint, Petipa, Russian classics." Probably Duato's misunderstanding or denial, a poetic of contrasts characteristic of 70s of the 19th century, as well as the duration of the original performance, led him to cut off many fragments of the classical versions. Deliberately getting rid of the traditional pantomime, the Spanish choreographer decided to make the emotional part of the story more accessible to today's viewer. Due to the desire to make the ballet more embossed and energetic, Duato filled the production with dance, providing a choreographic voice for many of the Petipa characters, mostly men, Brahmin and Raja, porters and slaves. As it was with the fairy Carabosse in the Duato of Sleeping Beauty, the brightest character in the new performance was the great Brahmin, who turned from the repulsive mimic character of indefinite age into a young, strong youth, burning with unrequited love for the Baudelaire. The appearance and choreographic language of the character changed, resolved in a recognizable Duato's plastics with abundance of jumps, powerful amplitude movements, and wide expressive gestures. Duato again trusts the design of the performance to the Serbian artist Angelina Atlagic. Just like in The Sleeping Beauty, she was both a set and costume designer. Duato's play lacked the symbolism of color, which is so important for Indian culture in general and for Pitipaides in particular. If in Petipa's performance, the basis of two colors is clearly traced, red, earthly, the color of the fire, and white, unearthly, the color of the soul, Duato does not have that. Angelina proceeded solely from her personal ideas of matching the Indian flavor. Decoration and props are presented in a rather minimalistic manner, and they're made mainly in golden and brown colors. For Le Belvedere and the coach's beige tone became a dominant feature. The costume of Salor, Gamzati, and Raja are much more generously saturated with color. For them, Angelina Atlagic mainly used blue, green, and burgundy shades. So in the Kingdom of the Shadows act, instead of the jungle and the Himalayas, shadows dressed in a light gray tutus. They danced in a night sky, as embodying the cosmic loneliness of the human soul, surrounded by distant stars. This echoing the original idea of Petipa, the transition, the image of the human soul. Thus, after several versions of the classical legacy staged by Duato in the Mikhailovsky Theatre, The Sleeping Beauty, Nutcracker, and Le Belvedere, it becomes obvious that the search for a compromise between tradition and innovation, as well as a desire to fill old forms with modern dance content, is not more than a game of imitation, rather than a part of an individual creative process. The performances clearly showed Duato's lack of understanding of the essence of a choreographic drama in a classical ballet performance, as well as the fact that the choreographer personal vocabulary of classical movements is very small. An appeal to the classical heritage by Spanish choreographer, a master of the one-act modern production, showed that Duato is able to express thoughts in language of classical dance is much the same way as Marius Petipa expressed himself in Russian. It's been very imprecise and with a great emphasis. The staging of the large story ballet based on the point technique showed that this form of the performance is not the strength of his multifaceted talent. However, each talent has different areas of manifestation, and Nacho Duato is rightfully recognized as a master of one-act plotless ballet. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Вопросы у нас после всего, хорошо? Окей, pasamos la palabra a Juan Bockamp, que nos preparó una cosa súper interesante.
Bueno,
A ver, ¿dónde?
ah, vale. ¿Me puedo poner sus aquí?
Sí. ¿Pero con tu ordenador o...? ¿Sí?
No, lo pongo allí ya que estamos directamente. So thank you so much, Karina Kozlova, for your presentation on Nacho Duato. I love the fact that we had here in Spain for several years Marius Petipa in Madrid, and that a person that is now working in Russia too has been working also in Madrid is quite a coincidence. So I hope Russia and Spain can really tie you know, a nice legacy of working together, of inspiring, you know, Spanish looking to Russia, Russians looking to Spain. I know with all the wonderful ballets like Don Quixote, Paquita, Laurencia, there's a beautiful legacy of Spanish interest in Russian culture. Okay, well, I need to now direct my attention to what I'm going to be presenting. One little second here, please. So my work is about Legat, Olga Preobrazhenskaya, and Legat y Egorova. As we know, they were all from Russia and came to Europe in the 20th century. And I've been digging a bit with the idea to understand their methods and to see how they influenced Europe at the time of the 20th century. So let me just start this PowerPoint. Es aquí, ¿no? Con esto en grande. Perfecto. And now I just have to share the screen. Aquí estamos de nuevo. Zoom. Compartir pantalla. ¿Están viendo la pantalla?
No.
Not yet. How to do this? ¿Es aquí? Opciones avanzadas de función compartir, ¿no? Aquí.
Sí, a ver, esta no.
Sí, ¿no?
Sí.
¿Están viendo la pantalla?
¿Dónde lo tienes? Aquí, ¿no?
Aquí están. Aquí están.
Vale, ahora sí.
Ahora está viendo. Vale, perfecto. Pues I'm going to be speaking in Spanish. I hope you can all see the presentation. So I will switch. I don't know if they can see me. So, yo creo que sí, ¿no? ¿Se me puede ver o no?
Debería.
Bueno, I'm going to start.
Okay.
3 maestros rusos en Londres y París. La escuela rusa es un tema muy amplio para mí, de verdad, investigar sobre las raíces, ¿no?, de la escuela rusa, cómo se forma a través de varias tendencias y otras escuelas, como es la francesa y la danesa y obviamente la italiana. Estamos hablando de un periodo muy interesante en Rusia. Estamos a finales del siglo XIX. Viene Enrico Cecchetti a San Petersburgo y, digamos, hay una inquietud de renovar la técnica, pero de tal modo que se respeta lo francés, ¿no?, lo establecido por Marius Petipa. Obviamente tenemos también a Lev Ivanov, Christian Johansson, quienes van a dirigir claramente la estética de finales del siglo XIX. Entonces, como hay bailarines que todavía están bailando bastante, y no solamente bailando, sino forman parte de el teatro imperial, que significa ser un artista, ¿no? Y tenemos gente como Pavel Gertz, Katerina Bazem, tenemos todas las bailarinas italianas que vienen a bailar a San Petersburgo, Virginia Zucchi, Elna Kornalba. ¿Y qué pasa? Legat, Nikolai Legat es un curioso, es una persona divertida, es una persona que tiene mucha energía en entender qué está pasando, quién es Enrico Cecchetti, qué tendencias podemos ver de Carlo Blasis, qué son las baterías italianas, la estética italiana que tanto Marius Petipa no le gusta al principio, y de hecho va a hablar muchas veces de la destrucción del ballet clásico a través de la escuela italiana, pero es obvio que luego con Pierina Legnani y con otras bailarinas queda tan entusiasmado que su legado coreográfico sigue. ¿Quién era Nikolai Legat? Pues aquí vemos a Nikolai atrás en la barra y Sergei delante, sudando mucho en una actitud de facé, y su padre tocando el violín, ¿vale? Y yo creo que quizá la madre está en la puerta hablando, diciendo, ya hay de comer o algo así. Digamos, Gustav Legat era un buen conocido de Marius Petipa, y lo importante decir es que Nikolai se forma en una familia de artistas, como la tradición de Vestris, como la tradición de Taglioni. Es una dinastía, digamos. Y se gradúa en 1888 en la clase de Nikolai Volkov. Era un gran acontecimiento para ellos, no solamente para Nikolai Legat, pero para su padre, para su hermano, y forma parte, digamos, en ese mismo año, parte de los ballets imperiales. Tiene un peso muy importante. Es una persona que no solamente baila, saca caricaturas. Esta caricatura de la izquierda es de 1909. Está con Matilda Shchedzinskaya, la conocemos como la amante del zar, ¿no? Del último zar Nicolás II. Y es una persona muy divertida y se sorprende que en París en 1909 han perdido esa técnica tan pura que habían importado a Rusia. Y cuando le preguntan en París, ¿qué escuela tiene usted? Pues Nicolai dice de forma graciosa y divertida, la misma escuela que ustedes, pero ustedes la han olvidado. Entonces, podemos decir no es que la escuela rusa empieza a principios del siglo XX, pero que se renace, hay una especie de florecimiento de jóvenes bailarines que tienen mucha energía, que están siendo promocionados y que técnicamente por el lado italiano, artísticamente por el lado francés, unen ambas cosas. Una cosa que es muy importante y que luego Agripina Vaganova lo va a escribir en su libro de los años 30, que es la escuela rusa nace de dos vertientes, la italiana y la francesa. Aquí le vemos como príncipe Désiré en La Bella Durmiente. Vale. ¿Qué pasa luego? Legat va a Londres después de haber estado en París, después de también haber tenido problemas en el teatro como director y como también coreógrafo. Él coreografió El Hada de las muñecas junto a Sergei Legat. Legat se toma su vida tras la Revolución de 1905 y hay una especie de intrigas y él se ve forzado de dejar el país, como veremos los otros dos maestros que voy a hablar de ellos. ¿Y qué pasa? Tiene en Londres por más de 10 años, en College Gardens, una gran escuela privada donde él forma bailarines. Y muchas veces, y esto es curioso, bailarines que ya tienen trabajo, digamos, como Andrei Levski, que le vemos aquí a la izquierda, un muy buen bailarín que luego bailó en Estados Unidos. Legat es un hombre de principios, él es un hombre de técnica, pero no solamente técnica, todo lo que incluye lo de ser artista. Entonces, vea diferentes bailarines y no tienen la verticalidad, no tienen el apoyo de un bailarín. Entonces, para varios meses están solamente en la barra. En la barra hace un trabajo muy meticuloso con ellos y se dan cuenta, y he visto muchas escrituras de memorias de bailarines que trabajaron con Legat, que la pirueta salía, que estaban más sólidos, que podían desprenderse de la técnica para bailar, digamos, la técnica era algo para ayudarles. Y volviendo a Legat, porque como dijiste tú, Legat no se conoce mucho, sí que en Londres y hay una sociedad que yo de hecho he conocido y he tomado unas masterclass de técnica Legat. Es bastante diferente y sí que tiene una base que conocemos de Vaganova, pero hay diferentes posiciones de los brazos, enfoca de una forma diferente. Vemos que empezamos con pliés, en segunda posición, muy lento, grand plié, cuarta, quinta, los battements tendus, los battements tendus jetés. Curioso que ahora empezamos con los fondus, los frappés y luego empezamos con los grands jambes. Así que trabaja mucho la estabilidad sobre una pierna y luego abre en la posición de oposiciones en el grand jambe. Hablando con una alumna de la mujer de Legat, decía que todas las clases eran nuevas, no había una clase repetida. ¿Qué pasa? Que luego sus alumnos hacían una audición y eran muy rápidos. Y eso es muy bueno en ese sentido. Y bueno, pues Legat fallece en 1937, justo antes de la Segunda Guerra Mundial, y cultiva muchos bailarines que luego van a bailar en Estados Unidos con Ninette de Valois, en Francia. Entonces es una referencia del ballet ruso presoviético en Inglaterra. Vale. Pasamos a Olga Preobrazhenskaya. Olga Preobrazhenskaya, igual que Legat, viene de la misma escuela. Es una personalidad muy interesante porque ella no tiene el físico de una bailarina. Es muy pequeñita, es muy menudita, tiene problemas de espalda, tiene un poquito de chepa. Varias veces es denegada el acceso a la escuela del ballet imperial, pero como es una persona persistente y siempre trabajando muchísimo, llega a finalizar sus estudios y se convierte junto a Preobrazhenskaya una de las bailarinas más importantes de finales del 19, principios del 20. Tiene una carrera igual que Nikolai Legat, muy larga, creo que 25 años, y baila casi todos los clásicos. Sobre todo se luce en papeles como la mariposa en Caprichos de la mariposa, o por ejemplo en Raimonda, que de hecho hoy en día se conserva la versión coreográfica del último acto de la famosa variación del piano. Y ella ya en Rusia abre una escuela porque le gusta mucho el tema de la enseñanza. Entonces está entre que baila en Mariinsky, hace giras por Monte Carlo y París, muy parecido a Legat. Abre una escuela con Akim Bolinsky y es de allí donde empieza su trabajo pedagógico. Da también clases a la famosa Agripina Vaganova y es en los principios de los años 20, por temas obvios, que de hecho en Rusia en aquella época no se sabía muy bien lo que iba a pasar con la danza clásica, si lo iban a aceptar o no, porque era un arte de los zares, digamos, un arte imperial. Y Olga Preobrazhenskaya decide ir a Berlín y de Berlín decide ir después a París. Y he tenido un honor de hablar con algunos alumnos de ella, porque ella vivió hasta los 90 años y daba clases en París creo que 2 años antes de su muerte. Entonces estamos hablando de un periodo de varias décadas, de los años 20 a los finales de 1950, entonces 59 por ahí, más o menos. Sí, ella murió en el 1962. ¿Qué vemos? Pues es alumna del Legat. De hecho, baila también con Legat porque no tienen tanta edad de diferencia. Es alumna de Johansson y Johansson la critica mucho, la llama que es un caballito, pues no, un diablito jorobado y que nunca va a ser una bailarina. Entonces ella por dentro dice, voy a decir que sí que valgo. Digamos, Preobrazhenskaya es una de las bailarinas donde se ve más resiliencia, ¿sabes? Como se ve más el hecho de si yo trabajo bien, puedo conseguirlo todo. Y continúa sus estudios con Enrico Cecchetti y es en París, en la Salle Wacker, porque ella no tiene su estudio privado como Legat o luego Egorova o muchas otras. Ella es parte de como un STEPS o digamos, unos estudios que tienen varios profesores. Y es allí, pues, donde hay muchísimas bailarinas y bailarines pasan por sus manos, como Roland Petit, que luego va a ser coreógrafo en Marsella, Rosella Hightower estudia con Preo, la llaman Madame Preo o Madame Olga, y Mayna Gilgood, con la que he podido hablar, también habló de sus experiencias ella los sábados, y decía que era una persona tan pequeñita que se subía a la silla para ver a todos, porque era como casi, bueno, 1 metro y poco. Y digamos, el ojo de ella, viendo las clases, aunque ya era muy mayor, pero todo el conocimiento que se traía de sus estudios en Rusia, como bailarina, digamos, hay un documental muy bonito donde Rosella Hightower habla sobre lo simple que tiene que ser la aurora de primer acto, ¿no? El arabesque limpio y claro, nada de manerismos, ¿no? Y Preobrazhenskaya también es la profesora que trabaja el clásico, que hoy en día casi se ha perdido, yo creo que en Rusia todavía se utiliza, digamos, las formas plásticas del ballet, la forma muy femenina de enseñar un épaulement, los coups de pie. Y digamos, su barra, tal como me contaron sus alumnos, era simple, todo era en croix, nada de cambiar mucho las piernas, todo tenía que tener una base muy sólida. Luego en el centro, eso sí, mucho épaulement, mucho utilización de brazos, de cara, de los ojos, que hoy en día a veces no se aprecia. De verdad, ser un artista no solamente es bailar con los pies, es la música, es el sentimiento, es expresar de dentro algo que tienes, porque antiguamente se hacían mucho los ballets, pues como Bella Durmiente, Giselle, y había que interpretar un rol, digamos. Vale, pasamos a Legat y Egorova. Ella es, digamos, la última profesora y bailarina que voy a hablar. La conexión de Legat y Egorova es quizá la más reciente porque ella vivió hasta los años 70. No es mucho tiempo, digamos. Y hay pocas generaciones en tantos años. Legat y Egorova era bailarina, obviamente, de Marius Petipa, era un poquito más joven que Olga Preobrazhenskaya. Ella había bailado no solamente en el Teatro Mariinsky, sino con los teatros de los ballets rusos de Diaghilev, la famosa versión de 1921, perdón, de The Sleeping Princess, la princesa dormida, que no se llamaba Bella porque Diaghilev no le gustaba el nombre de Bella y decía que las auroras no eran bellas. Pero bueno, ya sabemos. Egorova luego abre su estudio en París. Es una persona, bueno, de hecho es una princesa porque se había casado con un noble Y Maina Gilgood habló mucho de ella porque estuvo 4 años trabajando con Legat y Egorova. Ellos entraban a una casa muy bonita, abajo había el estudio con una chimenea y un busto de Ana Pavlova, y Legat y Egorova siempre se sentaba, digamos, a un lado, cerca de la chimenea, porque tenemos que saber, en ese periodo había pasado la Segunda Guerra Mundial, París estaba también con los nazis alemanes y bueno, había mucha pobreza. Pero bueno, la danza seguía. Y igual, todo era en cruz, en la barra, ejercicios en media punta, ejercicios para dominar el cuerpo, cosa que vemos luego con Agripina Vaganova, porque es una continuación, porque Agripina Vaganova solidifica la escuela rusa para la Unión Soviética, ¿vale? Pero, digamos, hay una diferencia entre los bailarines que luego son maestros en Occidente a los bailarines que luego son maestros en Rusia, ¿vale? En la Unión Soviética. Legat y Egorova trabajaba mucho la pantomima y la expresión en los adagios. No solamente eran posiciones, actitud, arabesque, tourlant, no. Ella quería que las bailarinas expresasen. Y sobre todo era una maestra para bailarinas. He podido conocer a Echel Pagava, he podido también conocer y hablar con Tiziana Leskova, que actualmente todavía vive, tiene 97 años y es, digamos, una de las fundadoras del ballet en Brasil. El uso de la cabeza y el épaulement, sobre todo con las mujeres, es importantísimo. ¿Por qué? Porque tenemos que ver la tridimensionalidad en la escena. Digamos, todo lo que es solamente en face es como una puerta. Lega también pone esas bases de siempre estar en el épaulement y posiciones grandes, ¿no? Por aquí quiero dejarlo por ahí. Ahora por aquí quería mostrar unos vídeos porque para mí era muy importante también ver la parte visual, ¿no? de estas personalidades que de hecho tenían sí, unas personalidades muy importantes, ¿vale? Se conservan solamente estos fragmentitos de Legat. Aquí le podemos ver, es una persona calva, o bueno, como se perdió el pelo muy temprano, podemos ver aquí que están en una estación de trenes. Esto será quizá principios de los 30, ¿vale? Yo creo que es una compañía de danza o estoy muy seguro quiénes son estas personas. Nicolai Legat. Digamos, dicen que tenía la cabeza muy grande y siempre estaba haciendo, como se ve, pantomima y muy divertido siempre. Y así eran sus clases, digamos. Él tocaba el piano y acompañaba él mismo sus clases. Y si alguien fallaba en algo, tocaba una nota equivocada. Digamos que se lo pasaba muy bien, pero era estricto, ¿eh? Se tenía que trabajar mucho. Vale. Pues este es Nicolai Legat. Y pasamos ahora a Olga Preobrazhenskaya. Esto es de Francia. Esta es. Sí.
Oui, oui. We are not seeing that.
Estas son las otras profesoras y otras disciplinas que estaban en la salle Wacker, que ya no existe. Ahí está.
I'm sorry, we don't see anything.
Yes, maybe you have to share the screen because we didn't see anything.
Okay, thank you.
Even a legato, we could not see, unfortunately.
Not okay. Compartir pantalla, ¿no? Ah, sí, now, yes. Yes, here. Compartir. I think that will help. Now you should see, no?
Yes, now.
Okay. I will go back a bit. Preobrazhenskaya y Karina. Okay, I'm going to put again Legat. I'm sorry about this. I hope you can see it.
Yes,
okay.
We can see it.
This is Legat. We don't have any dance footage of Legat, unfortunately. Just his nice expressive port de bras. And now we go to Egorova. Bueno, pues muchísimas gracias. Creo que ya tengo que terminar. Y esto, digamos, para mí ha sido muy interesante poder hablar, sobre todo con gente viva que sepa de estas cosas, porque a veces lo que nos falta en la danza es eso, la conexión, ¿no? Y poder aprender sobre otros métodos, poder inspirarse, poder saber dónde estamos, qué es nuestro legado, por qué la danza de Rusia es tan importante en Europa y cuánto nos han dado también las influencias de tantos profesores, y no solamente han sido estos tres, hay muchísimos más. De hecho, no, podría yo hablar aquí 3 horas, pero no es mi intención. Vale, muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you so much. Wait, I'll just partage l'écran and I'll do it this. Let's see. Okay. So thank you so much to Karina and to Juan for their presentation. Very interesting. So I'll just they make us dream with all these beautiful images and video sequence. So thank you, Irina, for inviting me for this presentation I'm going to give you, and about the Russian ballet culture and the Russian dance master teaching in Italy in the 1930s, from the 1930s to the 1970s. Actually, I mean, this presentation is not at all exhaustive because there were so many artists, so many performer, dance teacher from Russia that came in Italy to perform and to teach. So I just select a few one because I was directly or indirectly in contact with them, either because I was their student or because they founded a school where I had my training. So let's wait, just, okay. So at the beginning of the 20th century, as everybody knows, the arrival of the ballet russe, the Diaghilev Ferrari, brought such a revolution in the field of dance. I mean, the people that never seen such incredible dancers with such incredible musician, choreographer, costume and scenographer making. So it was really a big shock at the time. So the first season in 1909 in Paris, it was really amazing. And, you know, like for instance, Le Prince Igor, the music by Borodin, and this costume by Nicolas Roerich, as that they were really using ikat, traditionally ikat textile, so very colorful, with this beautiful chromatic, like a firework. And that is for the men, but also the scenography, which was very revolutionary at the time. So even for Five Bird with music by Stravinsky, I mean, the choreography by Michel Fokine, costume by Leon Bakst, lovely dancer, lovely costume, lovely choreography. So it was really a big, as I say, really a revolution in the field of dance at the time. Same for the scenography by Alexandre Golovin. And similarly for l'après-midi d'enfant avec la musique by Claude Debussy, the choreography by Vasilij Nijinsky, costume by Leon Bakst, a choreography which was very new in the movement, though inspired by the ancient Greek painting on the pottery, or in the bas relief, and the new discovery a tradition of Cretan Minoic Mycenaean that was the archaeology was just the beginning of the century, and Bakst took also inspiration for the costume. So and the movement by Nijinsky, which were very new and also very scandalous, as you know. And this scandal continued with the second choreography by Les Sacres du Printemps, with music again from Stravinsky, choreography Nijinsky, and the costume scenography by Nicolas Roerich. There also is an explosion of color, steps, which the combination of the steps, the andedans, and the movement, very, very, very revolutionary for the time. So what was specific of the troupe of Ballet Russe, that they were presenting as a very avant-garde company, but in the same time, the same artists were excellent dancers, even in the most classical ballet. Like, for instance, in Giselle, which was represented in Paris, and which somehow it was almost forgotten in Europe, this repertoire, which was kept in Russia. And also thanks to the French choreographer and the Russian also artist, particularly Perrault and Petipa, this rich tradition. And the same for the company of Anna Pavlova, that for short period also worked with Diaghilev, that we had such incredible interpreter with such high standard of technical artistic. So this company somehow had one side avant-garde, very revolutionary presentation. At the same time, they were excellent also in the classical ballets. So as it was evoked also before, the presence of some Italian teacher, first performer and then a teacher in the Imperial Theatre. I'm thinking about Caterina Beretta, that was from Milan, from La Scala, that danced in St. Petersburg, but also was a teacher, a very famous teacher, and a number of dancers from St. Petersburg went to learn with her at the beginning of the 20th century. I'm thinking Anna Pavlova, Trefilova, and Tamara Karsavina. And as it was evoked also Enrico Cecchetti here with Anna Pavlova. So to say, at that moment, maybe artists were going in, Italian artists were going Russians, and then we will see the opposite. At the beginning of the century with the Ballet Russe, it was Russian dancer and artists that are really, like say, request from all over Europe for their quality. And at the same time, beginning of the 20th century, there are the tour of Isadora Duncan, American Isadora Duncan in Russia, which had a big impact also on the artists of the Imperial Theatre. I'm thinking of Fokin, all the ballet dancers at the time. I've seen Isadora Duncan performing in St. Petersburg and in Moscow. So that is very important. Also, we have to think. And then the work of the Prince Sergei Volkonsky that disseminated the François Delsarte and the integration of Jacques Dalcroze rhythmic in Russia. It was him that disseminated this technical, this pedagogic system, and so many schools of rhythm were grown in Russia. That is very important to introduce, that is from Dalcroze. Eugenia Borisenko, better known as Yaruskaya, that was born in Crimea in 1902. And she died in Rome, and she was the founder of the Accademia Nazionale di Danza in Rome, National Academy of Dance in Rome, where I studied, where I got trained. She was a very beautiful lady, very cultivated, extremely intelligent, with artistic, let's say, a great quality. And she was in exile. Oh, she also left Russia after the revolution, because her father was an officer of the army, of the imperial army of the Tsar. So they left Russia, and after she arrived, after going in Geneva, and after going also, she was married first time to a British gentleman, and then she got married to the director of a very famous newspaper in Italy, Milan, Il Corriere della Sera, which is still there. And she was, she was trained in dance and ballet in Russia when she was young, and she was also trained in Dalcroze, in a rhythmic of Dalcroze. As you will see, she was, let's say, a mixing of various techniques. And in her original city where she was born, that you can still get some ruins of Greek temples. It was a very important Greek city at the time. So she was, let's say, the Greek that was evoked by Isadora Duncan, and also by some composition of Fokin and La Primi di Donfon from Nijinsky. Eugenia Borisenko was really having these ruins in her own city. So the influence was very important. She met Anton Giulio Bragaglia in Italy, which was a very, an intellectual close to the Futurism movement in Italy, who was an art critic, a cinema critic, and theater critic, that suggest her to take this name Yaruskaya, so to this art name of Yaruska. We should say that this also following the successful tour in Europe by the Ballet Russe, at that time in Italy too, I mean, whatever was Russian was very much appreciated, because by the movement, artistic movement of avant-garde, because as I said, the Ballet Russe were having this double, let's say, quality, to be very revolutionary in the same time, to be able to perform in very classical styles. So he was a very important intellectual at that moment. And Yaruskaya, that here we see in some of her performance, was much inspired by the Greek-Roman tradition, and also this, as I say, the rhythmic by Jacques Dalcroze. And she wrote in 1928 a book, very important book in Italian, titled La Danza come modo di essere, which means the dance as a wave of being. And she composed this technique, which was, as I say, is a number of elements when it called orchestica. And she even created a dance notation, which was called orchesticography. So the book was published in 28. In the early 30s, she co-directed the dance school at the Milano La Scala, Teatro La Scala in Milan. We have some example. And later on, came in Rome. From Milan, she shifted in Rome, and she opened, even in Milan, she opened her own private school beside the direction of the ballet school at La Scala. And she, this private school, she was teaching her own method, which was a combination of, as I said, of this orchestica. It was a combination of Dalcroze and all the tendency of a free dance of the time. In Rome, at the end of the war, the Second World War, she got this at the Aventino Hills here in Rome. She got these places from the government of Italy that is still now the place of the Accademia National Academy of Dance in Rome on the Aventino. And it's a wonderful place because it was on the sites, also on the ancient Roman ruins. And we had a dance room, which was called the Palatina, the room Palatina, and from the window we could see the Palatino Hill in Rome with all the ruins. So wonderful scene. Beside, you will see there is also the Park of Rose, a public place. So it's a very incredible location. And Yaruskaya used to take her student also from a sort of performance, even in the churches, in the basilica, which are Paleo-Christian basilics, so very old church in Rome near the school, which were done constructed on previous Roman temples, as you see. So she was performing this technique even in this context. So, and she was such a prestigious, like such a cultivated, that in her school, she invited incredible artists at the time from Europe, from Russia, from North America. You will see a list of all of them during her life, and really amongst them, just putting in yellow, Curios, Jean Sebron. I had the chance to study under Jean Sebron, who was a student of Curios, and both of them were the teacher of Pina Bausch. But you will see the other name, very prestigious name for classical, but also for modern dance. Very important. If you want to know more, there are a number of references of articles which has been written by some colleagues in Italy about her that were directly her student. Unfortunately, I joined the school 1 year after she passed away. She passed in 1970, so I didn't have the chance to meet her personally. But Jean Sebron, Curios, that you will see here, young Pina Bausch, they were rehearsing for the Green Table, the famous composition of Curios in the 60s. We had a conference in Paris for Jean Sebron for his 90th anniversary birthday a few years ago. And this was a program. She was very much, Yaruskaya, very much fond of Curios Jean Sebron choreography. And this is the theater, which is called today Teatro Ruskaya, inside the National Academy. And it was, are the ruins of Roman thermal bath, where is built this in her honor. So we had a number of homage to her and to Jean Sebron, which I did also in this theater. Then we'll go to Nina Kurgapkina, that excellent, you know very well, better than me, artist of the Mariinsky, the Kirov, and excellent teacher too. She, you will see here with Rudolf Nureyev, very young. She was partnering him when he was very young, and Nureyev took her in Paris to restaged in Paris at the Opéra La Bayadère. So it was with the help of Nina Kurgapkina. And I had the chance to learn with her for 1 month intensive classes when I was very young. You will see me with her, and in Venice there was the International Biennale of the Dance in 1976, and she was there teaching, was excellent teacher, wonderful person and excellent teacher. And another teacher with whom I got also the opportunity to learn, it was Eugeny Polyakov. He was from the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow and arrived in Italy in 1976. He also was a maître de ballet in various opera houses in Italy. And then he joined Paris with Rudolf Nureyev, who called him also to restage Giselle in opera in Paris. And he was excellent. All of them, they were such amazing, really performer, teacher too, and very, I mean, I still remember the correction. It was fantastic. Then another Russian teacher that was there in the same years was Viktor Litinov, and here you will see with his sticks, that he was always with his sticks. The sticks was like I say, beating the time, but also sometimes beating us, and then sometimes he used to put to make us jump more high, and with this stick that was really scaring sometimes, but he was excellent. He too, excellent teacher. Then in Italy, we had a number of professors of dance, which were not necessarily Russian, but they made their training in Russia at the time, like Victor Rona, that he was from the Opera House of Budapest in Hungary. And he too was invited in Venice during this biennale. And with him also, I learned for 1 month intensive class, morning, evening. And what it was beautiful at the time, that in the class of Nina Kurgapkina and Victor Rona, we were dancing sometimes with the member of the Corps de Ballet of the various companies that were performing in the Fenice Theater during this period. So we had in the class the Royal Ballet, some artists from opera in Paris. So for us, we were very young. It was amazing to have a class also with such artists. Then again, Victor Rona in Budapest. And then we had some Italian dancer, like in the case of Elpide Albanese from the opera in Rome, that she got trained. She had a specialization, let's say, training at the Kirov in St. Petersburg. And she was a very lovely dancer too. And we had a class with her for repertoire. She was teaching us the different part of the repertoire. And then Margarita Traian, she was from Bulgarian dancer from Sofia, from the opera house in Sofia, and she too got special training in St. Petersburg, at the time called Leningrad, at the Kirov. She was giving class regularly. And then for, you say, in Rome, in Piazza di Campitelli, you will see this building behind the fountains. It was the place where the Russian cultural center was in Rome at the time during the Soviet period. And there we used to go, that is the square, that is the palace, a lovely place near the capital in Rome, very close to the forum. So it was a very beautiful also place. And there we had the chance to see some movie, some documentary, some photograph. At the time there was not internet. We didn't have the chance to otherwise to see. Either we could see the artist performing in the theater during their tour, Russian company, but otherwise it was at the Russian Cultural Center that we could see the photos exhibition, some documentary of Vaganova Academy here with the student that hold all the movie. And you see the dance class of the Bolshoi dance school in Moscow. So all of us, we were there looking, you know, get inspired by this lovely teacher and this student, and try to imitate them once in our class. Now it was it was really wonderful when I used to go to see this documentary. And we could see all the details, try to repeat the same, trying to be so good as they were. And then also we could get chance to see photos by, for instance, Katerina Maximova or Nadezhda Pavlova. So such incredible artists. And Katerina Maximova and her husband Vladimir Vasiliev were often they were performing in Italy. I have seen them several times in Rome in the Festival of Spoleto. So and it was every time for us, we used to rush to see them and all the other Russian artists. It was really very, for us, it was like a feast. Elements, amazing things to see. And just some story maybe that not everybody from the younger generation knows. You see in Rome there is the flea market, Porta Portese. See, you will see. And every Sunday there is a huge market, flea markets. And like any flea market, you will get all object, anything not so common in flea market like that. And such strange things also. But amongst all these objects, in the 70s, till the beginning of the 1980s, in this market, there was a part which was devoted to the Russians, to the Russian people that were coming out from the Soviet Union. Basically, they were Jewish artists. not necessarily artists, but also people that they left Russia to go to Israel or North America, and they stayed before going for some months in Italy, and they used to bring with them many objects of handicraft that they used to sell it, amongst which matryoshka dolls, wonderful scarf, wonderful, beautiful shawls, and amongst that, ballet shoes. We had these wonderful, I mean, we could see ballet shoes, scarves, matryoshka, that they used to bring from Russia. And I actually, some of you, maybe that you are very young, but at the times where these shoes that were fantastic because they were very strong, very solid, wonderful quality. And we had to stitch, you know, here with cotton thread to make it suitable to the coup de pied of each one. And I had all my training by buying in the flea market new ballet shoes coming directly from Russia. And another, to say, also company, which was very famous at the time, they used to come in Italy regularly, they were the troupe of Moiseyev. So bringing with this great, like say, folkloric dance, and which the highly quality, beside the company, of course, of ballet classical dances. So just I leave like that, just to show you that, let's say that there were so many teachers that they were coming to us, that they really trained our dancer in bringing with them that high quality of the Russian school. And so as you see, we'll have, according to the historical period, different type of movement, circulation of artists. If at one point they were the Italian dancer in the 19th century, they were going all over Europe and Russia, bringing their own technical. And at the same time, we had, particularly in 20th century, this circulation of Russian artists that for us really at the time were considered as the best that we could have. So let's say that there's been always this going, coming back, and all of them really, they left as such important, let's say, trace in our artistic life. So thank you to all of you. It was just to show you some also peut-être less known aspect of some of the artists that also we had the chance to have in Italy. So thank you so much.
Vale, y finalmente estamos con Marina. Marina.
Я могу включать презентацию?
Да, подключайте. Marina nos presenta su investigación sobre la imagen y el arte de las bailarinas clásicas de la época de Pitipa tardío. Va a presentar en ruso, por lo tanto voy a leer detrás de ella el texto.
Ирин, меня не очень хорошо вас слышно, просто хочу предупредить, вдруг будут какие-то накладки. Меня хорошо слышно?
Хорошо слышно, да?
Хорошо?
Да? Подключайте презентацию. Пока не видим.
Да, секунду. Все, я поняла, почему. Секунду.
Получается?
Секундочку. Секундочку, почему-то не вижу, секунду. Да, сейчас получится. Ага. Видно ли мою презентацию?
Да, все видно прекрасно, да, можете начинать.
Да, благодарю. Да, я готова.
Слушаем вас.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to introduce my report on the conference. Облик и мастерство классической танцовщицы эпохи позднего Пятипа.
La imagen y el arte de las bailarinas clásicas de la época de Pitipa tardío.
80-е и 90-е годы XIX века ознаменованы
fueron marcados por el trabajo de Mario Pitipa como coreógrafo en el ballet imperial. Продолжайте.
Искусство русских балерин совершенствуется, накапливая и оттачивая технику. Вторая половина 80-х годов и 90-х годов XIX века – это время экспансии итальянской школы. Дирекция императорских театров заключает контракты с итальянскими балеринами-виртуозками Брианце, Линьяни, которые на десятилетия определяют уровень технического мастерства ведущих сил русского императорского балета. Итальянки имеют большой успех у публики и становятся первыми исполнительницами главных партий в новых балетах Пятипа. В 1893 году на премьере балета «Золушка» с музыкой Фентишеля в постановке Пятипа Чикетти Иванова Ирина Линьяни впервые в России продемонстрировала 32 фуэте, количество, которое по сей день считается рекордным. Публика была потрясена. Критика зафиксировала это событие. В последнем действии госпожа Линьяни положительно превзошла себя. Делала их фуэте, не останавливаясь, 32, не сдвинувшись с места ни на один вершок. Вслед за ней амбициозная Матильда Кшесинская, мечтающая занять в труппе место прима-балерины, начинает проделывать тот же трюк. Другие балерины также вступят в соревнования совершенствуя пуантовую технику танца, чтобы исполнять небывалое дотоле количество фуэте, вращаясь на одной ноге, не сходя с одной точки. В конце XIX века в женской пуантовой технике, благодаря виртуозности итальянских гастролерш, начало расти и количество пируэтов. Быстрейшие двойные пируэты делаются почти без поддержки танцовщика. Производят впечатление прыжки танцовщицы с пола на руки партнера. Подобному мастерству в танце обучались, глядя на итальянок и русские балерины. В поддержке отмечались курьезные случаи. Николай Легат вспомнил: «Однажды я позволил своей партнерше упасть. Это было время исполнения балета «Царь Кандав». Я должен был сесть у основания статуи, принять позу, вытянув одну ногу вперед, и в таком положении ожидать свою партнершу, которая должна была броситься мне в объятия. По оплошности или из-за волнения я выставил вперед не ту ногу и в итоге оказался не в том положении, которое позволило бы мне удержать равновесие, когда партнерша бросилась ко мне». В балете «Пробуждение Флоры» Анну Павлову однажды уронил Павел Герд. В тот момент, когда она должна была упасть ему на руки, он отвлекся на какой-то предмет, беспечно оставленный на сцене, и в итоге упал прямо на нее. При этом критиком итальянской школы, как ни парадоксально, был глава русского балета, работавший с гастролершами Марио Петипа. Так, под конец 90-х годов XIX века интервью о состоянии петербургского и зарубежного балета он высказывался резко, критически о виртуозности зарубежных исполнителей. Там, за границей, постоянно уклоняются от настоящего серьезного искусства, в котором должны главенствовать пластика и красота, а невозможные прыжки, бессмысленное окружение и поднимание ног выше головы. Это не искусство, а клоунада. Это итальянская школа и губит балет. Но удержать технический прогресс было невозможно, и сам Петипа сочинял свои главные балеты на итальянских балерин, только потом партии переходили к русским танцовщицам. Итальянские и русские балерины конца XIX века были как на подбор схожи по типу строения тела. Совсем маленького роста, ниже 160 см, крепкого телосложения, ярко выраженной мускулатурой всего тела, особенно ног. Так Карлота Брианца, первая исполнительница партии «Авроры», критика писала: «Происходит ряд классических па. Брианца снова на своем стальном носке выполняет ряд весьма трудных пируэтов и сложных групп. В общей сложности балерина исполняла массу трудных блестящих танцев. Если ей не доставало чего, то это роста. Она всегда была мала для огромной сцены Мариинского театра. Такие танцовщицы словно были рождены освоить сильную стальную технику и даже внешне производили впечатление стабильной устойчивости и приземленности. Их невысокий рост был необычайно удобен для координации движений в турах и фуэте, в мелких сложных движениях, например, в заносках. Бисерная техника производила искрящее впечатление от танца». Вариация «Феи бриллиантов» в «Спящей красавице» 1890 года может служить примером именно такого мелкого сверкающего кружевного танца на пальцах. Чикетти на рубеже веков давал уроки нашим танцовщицам, которые стремились к усовершенствованию своего мастерства. Об ученицах Чикетти говорили, что в технике их танца присутствовали четкость, сила, линия, большая выносливость. Однако, несмотря на подобную четкость, танцовщицы сохраняли смягченные руки, плавные линии, женственность. Таким образом, русская школа на рубеже XIX-XX веков вобрала в себя черты французской и итальянской школ. Балерины продолжали носить корсет как на сцене, так и в жизни. Перетяжка фигуры в области талии, осиная талия, способствовала визуальной стройности танцовщиц. Однако верх корпуса и ноги были далеко не худыми. В некоторых случаях женщины затягивали корсет до 37 см талии. Фигура приобретала рюмочный силуэт, который сохранился до революции 1917 года у женщин высшего света и у танцовщиц императорской балетной труппы. Итальянские гастролерши оказывали свое влияние на сценический костюм. Они привезли не только манеру и технику исполнения па, но и укороченные юбки длиной выше колена, в которых было удобно вращаться и выступать в дуэте с партнером. Это новшество сразу подхватила Матильда Кшесинская ношением коротких тюников. В этом отношении артистка превосходила иногда итальянок, у которых туго накрахмаленные тюники, пачки, изображали абажур на лампе. Так, к началу 20 века танцовщица уже щеголяет в пачке, но юбка еще спускается по бедрам и прикрывает их или чуть ниже середины, почти до колена. И все-таки именно с этого времени начинается эволюция пачки, которая в первой половине 20 века приобретает известный нам вид. Постепенно становясь короче и выше, и тем самым открывая линию ног, акцентирует внимание на работе и форме всей ноги, а не только на ее нижней части, стопе и щиколотке. По этой причине ноги должны были приобретать определенную форму. Этот процесс также будет длиться десятилетиями. Выработка красивой формы ног такой задачи еще не стояла ни в конце XIX века, ни в первой половине XX. Ноги, будучи рабочим инструментом танцовщицы, не были еще предметом эстетической элитарной природы, что пришло в балет во второй половине XX века. Также не принимались во внимание изысканность очертаний всей фигуры, худощавость и вытянутость или длина шеи. То есть та специфика физического облика балерины, к которой мы все привыкли сегодня. Это видно по фотографиям с киносъемки. Неудивительно, что когда в начале 20 века на общем профессиональном фоне компактных и коренастых танцовщиц вдруг возникла балерина, имевшая особенно красивые утонченные ноги, худощавое строение тела, удлиненные формы. Она сразу выделилась и привлекла всеобщее внимание. Анна Павлова стала тем самым предвестником нового, первой артисткой, чей облик связывают с бесконечной утонченностью. Она не обладала выдающимися физическими данными для исполнения классического танца, но имела внешность, отвечающую требованиям и вкусам времени. Удлиненные линии тела, маленькая голова, изящно выгнутая шея. Этот облик делал Павлову идеалом балетной танцовщицы начала XX века. Несмотря на свой анатомический недостаток, невыворотные ноги, Павлова нашла линию, поражавшую своей красотой. Ее стопа в арабеске смотрела вниз, но это ничуть не портило ее облик, зарисованный на плакате Серова. В танцах госпожи Павловой много элегантности и природной несделанной грации. Худяков писал в «Петербургской газете». Элевация госпожи Павловой выходит из ряда обыкновенного. Это душа легкокрылой бабочки, заключенная в несколько удлиненное тело, весом 20 золотников. Каждая жите, каждая антраша, каждая шапе, словом, каждое движение воздушной Жизели Павловой дышало изяществом. Чарующее, освежающее впечатление производили невидимые крылья порхающей госпожи Павловой. Первые годы XX века ознаменованы началом изменения в облике балерины на фоне итальянских, а затем русских виртуозок-балерин с внешней ярко выраженной силой, крепостью мышц, уплотненными формами и стальным носком. Зажглась звездочка нежная и хрупкая, с тонкими изящными линиями и грацией лебедя. Эпоха позднего пятипа внесла коррективы не только в облик классической танцовщицы, но также повлияла на мастерство балерины. Произошли перемены в технике классического танца. Виртуозный танец, подкрепленный мастерством апломба, взошел на свой пьедестал. В связи с этим меняется форма ног танцовщиц, их мышцы становятся крепче и более развитыми, а носки стоп сильными. Балетная школа конца XIX – начала XX века, занятая наращиванием технической виртуозности, мало концентрировалась на внимании к пятым позициям, выворотным и натянутым стопам во всех движениях и прыжках, о чем можно судить по фотографиям киносъемки, запечатлевших балерин в танце. Все это придет в русскую балетную школу с методикой Агриппины-Вагановой и ее последователей. Будет внедряться с помощью чрезвычайно кропотливой работы. Тогда же начнут существенно меняться и требования к приему будущих артистов балета в балетную школу. Анна Павлова стала первой ласточкой, предвосхитившей тот облик балерины, который станет присущ служительницам балетной профессии полвека спустя. Спасибо.
There is no sound. No sound. We cannot hear.
Меня было слышно. Да, меня было слышно. Ирина. Слышите ли меня сейчас?
Да.
Слышно?
Да, Марин, мы вас слышим.
Когда я читала слайд, меня было слышно?
Да.
Что-то со связью. Я прошу прощения, к сожалению, не слышно, Ирин.
The sound, yes, the sound is not there.
Да.
Yes.
Ahora sí, ¿ya? Ok,
Yes,
termino. Al mismo tiempo, los requisitos para la adquisición de las futuras bailarinas de la escuela de ballet comenzaron a cambiar de manera significativa. Anna Pavlova se convirtió en la primera golondrina que anticipó la aparición de una bailarina, la imagen que adquirirán las bailarinas medio siglo después. Bueno, perdonadme por la traducción, que no fue exactamente muy precisa, pero bueno, espero que hayan comprendido, ¿verdad? Sí, sí. Bueno, muchas gracias, Marina. Большое спасибо, Marina.
Thank you.
Ok, podemos hacer varias preguntas. Podemos pasar al turno de preguntas. We can ask the questions and yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Можем задать вопросы.
Да, пожалуйста.
I have a question for the Russians. How do you see the pre-Vaganova methods in comparison to the Vaganova?
Я прошу прощения, мне совсем ничего не слышно. Ирин, у меня что-то со звуком, и мне очень-очень плохо слышно, как будто бы далеко, человек говорит очень далеко.
А как он далеко говорит? Сейчас он подойдет.
Да, благодарю.
Vale. Perfecto. I'll ask in English. Well, thank you so much for everybody. The presentations were very nice. Very interesting, and I have always been asking myself this question. In Russia, how do you see the pre-Vaganova training methods that we've had here in Europe, for example? Like, in what does it differentiate? Is there a lot of difference, or it blends practically one into the other? I was always very curious about that. About different arm positions, about use of certain exercises, the influence of Cecchetti in the Russian school. Maybe you can talk a bit about
Ирин, я могу попросить, если можно сказать по-русски, мне прям совсем очень плохо слышно. Я не знаю, что с звуком компьютера.
Карина, включите ваш микрофон, пожалуйста.
Да?
Да, это вопрос ко всем русским. Какая разница и какое влияние русской школы, какая разница между европейской школой и русской в позициях ног, рук? Да, поняли?
Влияние европейской и русской школы на что?
Какая разница в позициях рук, ног? Да?
Да. Итальянской и русской школы. Скажем так, из итальянской школы к нам пришла больше виртуозность, спортивность и более четкость, вытянутость линий.
Unas líneas
Французская школа принесла нам мягкие линии рук.
de la escuela francesa tenemos las líneas muy suaves de los brazos. Ajá.
Русская школа вобрала в себя черты и итальянской, и французской школы. То есть Агриппина Ваганова создала позицию, в определенных моментах они становятся вытянутые, в некоторых они сохраняют смягченность линий. Поэтому можно смело сказать, что русская школа вобрала в себя черты итальянской и французской школы.
La escuela rusa tiene ambas influencias, tanto francesa como rusa, francesa, y a través del arte de Agrippina Vaganova, a través de la transformación pasada por la escuela de Vaganova.
¿Y cómo ven el trabajo pre-Vaganova? Digamos, ¿hay una clara diferencia o, digamos, es más bien una? Digamos, el trabajo de Legat, de Egorova, Preobrazhenskaya, Tiziana, que estaban aquí en Europa. Digamos, hay un corte después de la revolución y claro, cuando los artistas emigran a Europa, digamos, ¿se ve claramente una diferencia o es la misma cosa?
Se me entiende,
No sé si me entienden la pregunta.
Sí, sí. Спрашивают, как es que lo que pasa que, a ver, algunos se emigraron, pero otros se quedaron. Claro. Es la misma escuela.
La misma escuela.
Claro. Sí. Entonces, no ha cambiado, ¿no? Спрашивают, вот этот разрыв, который происходит после революции, да? Слышите меня?
Да.
Да? Разрыв, который происходит после революции. То есть одни остаются, другие уезжают, одни продолжают преподавать в Европе русский балет, но это, вероятно, уже он трансформируется во что-то еще. Это становится просто другим стилем, да, европейский русский балет. И то, что остается в России, вот если можно как-то это оценить.
Рассказать о том, что остается в России, правильно понимаю?
Ну, я не совсем сама понимаю, но я думаю, что так, да.
Говоря о том, что произошло с трансформациями, изменениями в России после революции, прежде всего мы говорим о школе Агриппины Вагановой. Агриппина Ваганова привнесла, как я уже сказала, определенную спортивность скажем так, она допускала, то есть она не говорила о том, что нужно делать там какие-то акробатические вещи, да, но они сами волей-неволей спрашивались уже у учениц Агриппины Вагановой. Например, Ольга Мунгалова, да, бывшая акробатка, она сделала колечко, да, то есть вот она, например, делала аттитюд, да, и ногу она клала на голову, да, то есть вот такие вещи. Что
как вы балерине сейчас говорите?
Я говорила про Ольгу Мунгалову, это выпускница, ученица Агриппины Вагановой.
Una alumna, una discípula de Agrippina
Говоря то есть после революционного времени она требовала немножечко других вещей в плане облика балерины. Почему? Потому что до революции вот эта мягкость, жеманность, и советская власть, естественно, она этого ничего не понимала, да, то есть советская власть полностью отрицала различные жеманства на сцене, руки сочённые, и таким образом школа Вагановая, она влилась в определенные, ну, даже так, скажем, стиль времени, который был после революции, да, то есть то, что поставила Агриппина Ваганова, он был абсолютно, что называется, в тему того времени.
Esta suavidad, feminidad, etcétera, líneas suaves, largas, etcétera, sí, pues aparece este estilo realmente deportivo y muy fuerte, ¿no?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Hello,
Спасибо.
привет. Привет.
Привет.
Irina,
Yeah.
can I talk in English or in Spanish?
In Spanish.
Okay. Let me say something in English first, because I would like to say,
Sí. Yes.
I would like to present to myself. My name is Norberto Muñiz Martinez. I'm professor of marketing at the University of León in Spain. I'm conducting a research, an academic research with colleagues from the High School of Economics, Moscow and St. Petersburg. And I'm planning to travel to St. Petersburg in autumn, in September probably, or October. I would like to conduct 3 case studies with colleagues from Russia. And first, we're going to start with St. Petersburg. So I hope to meet you, Karina and Marina, if I go to St. Petersburg. I hope to meet you there to have some conversations on the cultural ecosystem. My research is on how important is the ballet and performing arts for Russia, and how this the co-creation process from the artistic perspective, but mainly from the economic perspective. I was invited to be a speaker and in an art and cultural master science symposium in St. Petersburg in December. And I would like to travel to St. Petersburg as soon as I got the vaccine. I hope. Irina, thank you for organizing this conference, and I hope to meet you in person, not far in the future. Okay.
¿Más preguntas?
Just one question. So just to thank you, Marina, also for your presentation. Even if I don't speak, understand Russian, but I could make all the point and the translation also of Irina. Thank you. Just another curiosity, like one was asking, and this is the question for Marina, for Karina. Today, for us, what do you think can be a difference between the Vaganova school in St. Petersburg and the Bolshoi theater? Just I say this because they are the most well-known outside Russia, but there are definitely other centers very important in Russia, which, let's say, all over Russia, the dance school are good. But what we can say if there is really major difference in the sense, because so many also artists from St. Petersburg, they went to Moscow, and they also, I'm thinking the great, like Galina Ulanova, these that they were trained. So today, if you have to tell to somebody who doesn't know anything about the ballet, how will you say? What do you think is really big difference between these 2 major schools?
Инна, если можно, я по-русски отвечу, да, чтобы потом...
Between the St. Petersburg, Vaganova, Mariinsky, and the Moscow, the Bolshoi school.
Да, вот что касается 19 века, то, конечно...
По-английски можете говорить.
А можно по-русски?
Да.
Чтобы свободнее было. Если говорить про 19 век, то, конечно, разница была существенная между Москвой и Петербургом. Но что касается уже 20-21 века и современного состояния, то границы совершенно стираются, потому что центр...
The difference is very big between two schools.
Maybe you can say it also in Spanish. I can understand also. You can translate.
Marina, Karina, also Perm opera and ballet is also very famous. Not only Mariinsky and Bolshoi, Perm also opera and ballet.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now I'll try to speak in English. If we say about the 20th century or 21st century, the borders is like, как стираются, erased, because the main school of all ballet in the Europe and I think in the world is the main point is the Vaganova school, because all students and after that all teachers spread through the world and stay there. You will say about the beginning of the 20th century, the ballet Rus, which after the dancers and teachers and pedagogues travel around the world and start to live there and start to work there. So in every country, in every big city, we can find minimum one or two person, Russian or the who teaching by Russians. So we can say that the school is like the same everywhere, but we have different differences in the manners and differences in nationality, I think. For me, it's like that.
But between the school of Bolshoi in Moscow and Vaganova and the Mariinsky, is there effectively so many differences or not?
Not.
In terms of pedagogy?
Because we have, I think, plus minus the same method. And the method of the Vaganova. Plus minus, not 100%. Thank you.
I agree with Karina. I agree with Karina. So I haven't comments about this theme.
I would like to say something about that. I really enjoy the presentations because you are experts in artistic. I'm not expert in arts in the artistic perspective, but as an economic, I would like to say that Russia has a strong possibilities to develop ballet and performing arts as a cultural industry. You have to realize that many countries are developing cultural industries in what is called now soft power. Let's say rock and roll for England or United States, salsa music for Colombia. One of the strong points of Russia is the ballet and the cultural industries. So this is one of the things I really would like to develop from the perspective of economic, because there are many intersections between cultural industries, cultural tourism, and I think Russia has a strong possibility to develop a little bit more than that. Because it's also prestige for Russia. It's you are the best in the world in performing arts. Irina, do you agree with that?
Yes, yes.
What do you think? Tell me what do you think, Irina?
What do I think about
ballet as a cultural industry? Inés, are you there?
Pero ella.
One of my students is there next to Irina. Inés, say something, please. Inés is a student on the University of León, and she's conducting a master science project for on this topic. So I would like she can say something. Inés, could you say something, please?
As a question
About research. Tell something about your research.
Well, in English or in Spanish?
In English, yes. So that the Russians can understand you.
Well, I have done a theoretical part, but the most important one is the practical one. So we are trying to focus this kind of artistic world from an economic point of view, and we want to know how to improve the importance of ballet here in Spain and also in Russia. And maybe we want to know more about how it can be done and how to pursue improvements of importance of Russia. about ballet in Russia. I don't know.
Okay, spasiba.
Thank you.
Well, what I think is important for Spain in the dance part, especially with ballet, because actually ballet is foreign in a way to Spain, because we have our own classical dancing, which is el bolero, and of course all the other folklore. So we have a lot of richness in Spanish dancing culture. Another thing, if it's you know, done as it should be here in our political system. But ballet's always been very loved here in Spain in general. We do have a lot of companies that come, and especially from Russia. Like we've all seen Mariinsky, Bolshoi, Novosibirsk. They come, and usually with big programs like Swan Lake or Sleeping Beauty, Giselle. So there's, in a way, this curiosity for the white ballet, the tutu ballet, the point shoe ballet, and it's very much developed, and it's very high leveled in Russia. So what I think we can benefit as a land, as a country here in Spain, is to consolidate a school in dancing schools that everybody has the same training, so everybody has the same base. We cannot start, I don't think we can talk about industry if we don't have the proper mechanics in the proper formation of dancers. And that doesn't mean only the body, it's the heart and the soul, because at the end, a dancer in the balletic sense isn't, it's a piece of art. So of course, it would be wonderful to develop this at a exponential level, to open theaters that have the capacity and the space to present a high level of ballet. And I think we can just learn from Russia in that sense. It doesn't matter what's happening in Russia, there's always ballet, you know? There's everything might not work, but ballet is always there. You always have Swan Lake on the TV. So yeah, I think we can learn from that. We have to realize that we cannot just hide and say, oh, we're not good enough, or you know, what is dance? It's not the same as music, or not the same as science or theater. But we've especially seen now in the COVID period, many people want to see good films, want to see dancers, want to see musicians, because everything else isn't working. So I think culture is the answer to that. And a country we should always admire and look is Russia, in that sense, a reference.
Yeah, yes. Mm-hmm.
Also,
like so.
I really agree with you, but also I would like to say that if you think, for example, important ambassador cultural institutions like the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra or Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, or for example in sports, national teams like the Rugby All Blacks or the Brazilian team of football, or even the Ferrari company, I think Mariinsky and Bolshoi represents ambassador entities for prestige for Russia outside. Because when Mariinsky and Bolshoi do an international tour, everybody wants to go there because they know they are the best in the world. So we are not talking only about artistic creation. We are talking about the integration between arts and economy.
The Mariinsky and Bolshoi and also Vaganova is a kind of a brand, of course, but yeah. we want to try to speak about this in our artistic corner, not in like you know, industry.
Well, I'm not talking about industry as a factory or as a services. I'm talking about cultural industries. Irina, maybe next time I would like to present my presentation on cultural industries, okay?
Of course, yeah.
It's kind of
Lo que ocurre que nosotros reunidos aquí, pues no somos de la industria.
Eso es.
Por lo tanto, yo personalmente no siempre entiendo las conexiones que tú estás diciendo. Bueno.
That's why I would like to present the presentation.
Irina, ¿puedo intervenir? ¿Me oye
por
hoy?
supuesto, sí.
Hola, soy Ana Carles y bueno, si quieren puedo hablar en inglés o puedo hablar en castellano, lo que prefieran. Bueno, digo en castellano. Yo he dado clases en un máster, la asignatura de Industrias Culturales, y sé a lo que te refieres. Por otra parte, creo que lo que estás planteando es algo que históricamente se ha hecho ya, pero no con el término de industria cultural. Creo que el ballet en Rusia, especialmente en la época de la Unión Soviética, era algo más que una compañía de ballet. Era un emblema. Y si el ballet en Occidente se desarrolló, especialmente en Estados Unidos, como lo hizo, fue precisamente por esa competencia, porque era un emblema cultural. Y a la hora de hacer cara y plantar cara a la antigua Unión Soviética, los americanos no solo hicieron la guerra de las galaxias y la carrera espacial, también hicieron la carrera coreográfica. Y eso lo tenemos que tener clarísimo. Y Occidente ha dejado de invertir en danza a partir de la caída del muro de Berlín. No solo en danza, sino en arte. Porque mientras existió el bloque soviético, la inversión que hacía un país como Gran Bretaña, en el que yo me eduqué, la inversión que se hacía en danza, sobre todo en danza, porque se colocó como un estandarte. Entonces me parece que deberías mirar más. Hay unos estudios magníficos hechos sobre las primeras visitas del Bolshoi a Londres y también a París, que se han hecho tanto en Francia como en Gran Bretaña, lo que supusieron a nivel diplomático, a nivel político, a nivel artístico. O sea, entonces, entrar ahora en el tema de industrias culturales, sea lo que te refieres, yo estaba en la Inglaterra de Tony Blair, cuando el término industrias culturales, y yo estaba trabajando en las industrias culturales, y odiábamos ese término, porque no somos industrias, pero decidieron meter a Microsoft y al cine dentro de esas industrias, porque no somos industrias. Entonces es un término que se creó para poder, digamos, aglutinar y quitar la calidad de arte a ciertas formas artísticas que hasta ese momento no se habían incluido en las industrias culturales, como eran, por ejemplo, las artes escénicas. Así que me parece, eso por una parte. Y por otra parte, perdona, no me acuerdo tu nombre, el chico que ha hablado sobre Legat y Preobrazhenskaya.
Encantado.
Me parece fascinante todo este estudio que estás haciendo. Quería indicarte, no sé si conoces el trabajo de Geraldine Morris, que está... Geraldine Morris está estudiando el estilo de Ashton, es la mayor especialista en el estilo de Frederick Ashton, el coreógrafo. Y una de las cosas que hizo es mirar el entrenamiento que tenían esas primeras bailarinas que trabajaron con Ashton. Y evidentemente muchas venían o de Legato, de Preobrazhenskaya, como la propia Margot Fontaine, que había estudiado con Preobrazhenskaya. La influencia de Egorova, por ejemplo, que has hablado en Kurjos, fundamental, porque él, digamos, empieza a tomar elementos del ballet en su técnica de danza moderna, gracias a que estudió con Egorova en París. Y por supuesto, Shesenska no has hablado, pero bueno, Preobrazhenskaya que inicia los cambios que Vaganova va a continuar en San Petersburgo. O sea, realmente la que inicia los cambios, primero Bockamp, luego Preobrazhenskaya, y después, cuando ella se marcha, toma el relevo Vaganova. Y hay una cosa más, la pregunta que has hecho de si había diferencia entre la pre-Vaganova y la Vaganova, obvio. Por eso habría dos estilos de interpretación de la Bella Durmiente y de los clásicos, el inglés y el soviético, y no se reconocían. Y cuando la primera vez que los soviéticos a Londres, los críticos, por ejemplo, lo que echaron en falta, les quedaron admirados con Galina Ulanova, Strushkova, toda esta gente. Pero lo que echaron en falta fue la batería, los pequeños saltos, el detalle. Sí. Toda esa técnica, digamos, que venía de Cecchetti y de los franceses, también Legat venía de Johansson, que era de la técnica francesa, y echaban de menos eso. aunque les parecía que los grandes saltos y la plasticidad del cuerpo, la capacidad expresiva del cuerpo había incrementado, sí que otras cosas se habían perdido.
Claro,
Pero es
y
mira,
exactamente...
¿Mm?
Perdón.
No, que eso lo puedes mirar en los libros que se han escrito, no sé si conoces el de Swans of the Kremlin, los cisnes. Allí vienen recogidas esas críticas y, bueno, mirando las revistas históricas Dancing Time, esas primeros contactos que tuvieron los soviéticos. Pero me parece fascinante y sobre todo me parece muy fascinante lo que has contado, la diferencia en las clases, que creo que muchas veces olvidamos, de dónde venimos y esas pequeñas diferencias, pero que son muy importantes, filosófica y anatómicamente y artísticamente. Lo mismo, y sí que me gustaría hacer una pregunta a Tatiana, Tiziana, perdona, Cecchetti, porque has hablado de la influencia de los rusos en Italia. ¿Es esa una de las causas por las que la técnica italiana Cecchetti en Italia se fue perdiendo?
It's very difficult to reply to you because I mean, Cecchetti at the end of his life was teaching at La Scala Theatre, you know, and so actually I think that he was just at the end of his life, and I think that part has been kept. For instance, in a technical, all of these are very fast, and this épaulement, and these, but I think that at one point, many, let's say, the Cecchetti technique definitely stayed in Russia, got integrated and changed also with the pedagogy that and Danza, I think, as any other aspect of culture, is context sensitive. So it's what you were mentioning about the Soviet period, and all technique changes so much. I mean, if I see today the class of Vaganova or any other classes in the world, so much changes in the way I learned, you know, like technically, so many things. So it's been changed. I think part is kept, but to tell you, for instance, the successor of Yaruskaya at the Academy of Dance in Rome, she was trained in La Scala Theatre, and she was one of the last students of Cecchetti. Well, maybe she was too young to appreciate it. She was very young when I was there. So I think that at one point we have to see in England, in America, Margaret Krask, for instance, that was one of the students of Cecchetti in London. She went there, and Jean Sebron, with whom I was studying, he learned the Cecchetti method in New York with Margaret Krask, that she learned in London. So at one point, these teacher styles got disseminated in other place than in Italy, let's say. In fact, Margaret Krask, Alfredo Corvino, who were all, I mean, Jean Sebron, I remember when we were having class with him, he was teaching his own style, you know, of modern dance and this, but he was the son of a ballet dancer in opera in Paris. His mother was teaching also at the opera in Paris. But his classical technique, it was a Cecchetti method from Krask. And he was always said Cecchetti does like that. So actually we got the Cecchetti style filtered by the British one, that they got it, as a Russian they got it before. Then it was a British one, and then the American one. So we came in Italy again through the teaching of Jean Sebron, for instance. I was young at that time, but I still remember, you used to say with a French accent, Cecchetti does like that, Cecchetti that. And we like say, it's very strange to find the let's say, circulation of these techniques. And sometimes maybe we get things, we don't know exactly where they come from, but it came to us, for instance, in Rome and not in Milan, where he was teaching at the end of his life. And we got it through the filter of Krask, Corvino, you know, and it's very, but there were, for instance, the Battaggi sister in the opera house in Rome, that they were Scala, they were trained in Scala, and also with the Cecchetti. So most probably even in the opera house school in Rome, there was also another sort of, so it's quite interesting. And so we have to find the Cecchetti in different ways. So in Vaganova, where he was not teaching, I mean, matter whatever, in the Imperial Theatre, was and all these various students of him. So, but you know, it's very difficult to find exactly, but and now in Florence there is a school. This is a school that is teaching Cecchetti, giving, I think, also a degree, and in London, the Cecchetti school. But how much they are faithful to the origin, we don't know, because it's it's very complicated to say. Like you were, I think Juan was asking, what is there in Vaganova before Vaganova of the technique? And I think that in dance, nothing is lost. Is transformed according to the good taste also of the period. You know, like when I was trained, we should not keep the legs too high because it was not considered good. You know, like now if you don't have legs like that, it's a thing. So I mean, we were working a lot on the, you know, like the battery, the things like that. So what, like, I mean, just to show this, today in Paris, no, I'm Italian, but working here in Paris, I mean, Paris Opera, they stress about the French school, but what is there really French school? Because I mean, in Paris Opera, so many Russian, Sergio Lifarda, so many Russian teachers, so many Italian teachers in 19th century. So I mean, it's very strange for us also to understand what is the French style, what is the Italian, because they were always integrated, you know, like each other.
Yes,
so it's very complicated to say.
Traveling. Yeah, Margaret Krask, you were mentioning a student of hers and she was in South Africa as well. So Nadia Nerina, for example, Ashton Zhang, she trained in Cecchetti in South Africa. So
yes,
it's incredibly complex. It's incredibly complex.
And if you think the Royal Ballet also school, of course, there are some specific things, but often the teachers also were coming from Russia, and you know, like the influence of various schools. So it's very complicated. Then, of course, each choreographer can give, but I think this technique circulated as the artist, even in exile. I mean, how we could get such lovely, like a Preobrazhenskaya, all these Egorova in Paris, or Karsavina, and you know, like even Anna Paula in London, all these Legat. I mean, they left such incredible heritage. Like on the other side, the Italian at the time, the French at the time, the Swedish. I mean, there was such a mixing. I was always amazed. If we look, each artist at the time in 19th century, which they were not the travelings like today, but they were moving constantly. One season they were there, then they were in St. Petersburg, then they were in Berlin, then they went in Milan, then they were in Paris. I mean, with all the condition. So, and when they travel, all these artists bring with them all the, and they look at the other also. So they take from that. So it comes this incredible. Then, of course, you have like Vaganova that may be systematized in a very, very proper way. So gave really like an imprinting very strong. But otherwise, the other, it's very flexible because artists, they are so sensible. So they cannot keep, and even in the life of each artist, according to their age, even the sensitivity change and the technique change according to that. The fashion, also there are things which, for instance, you take the dancers today, they are so slim, so longilinear. If you see the dancer in 19th century, they were very small, rather little plumpy, because it was a model, also an aesthetic, which has changed enormously. You know, like, and the technique cannot be the same if you are a body with not long legs, or you have the corset, which make you not moving this part. I mean, I think the fashion change, the textile change, the concept of body change. So, I mean, a technique along goes with it. So, I mean, it's a really very complex, but just to tell you that it's very complex to answer, to have a precise answer, because I think that all this technique go all over, you know, like water goes somewhere, and sometimes we don't know even from which comes, but it stays there somehow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Yeah. One more thing, if you wanted to, I don't know if you know, but again, going back to Legat, you know Moira Shearer, the dancer, the red shoes, the British dancer?
Very much.
She was trained by Legat.
So, wonderful dancer, clean technique, very fast. Yes, wonderful.
I was trying to find where, but I read somewhere, I can't remember, or maybe Geraldine Morris told me. She trained with Legat. So you have an example here.
And before going to Sadler's Wells, she was working with Mona Inglesby in the International Ballet, with Nikolai Sergeyev, and of course, you know, she had a long career. But of course, Margot Fontaine was then more popular. Yes. But what I was seeing with Legat, because I was invited to take the classes in a Zoom meeting, just like we're having now. The difference of the naming of the positions of the arms, which are so variant in many different schools, you know, comparing it to Bournonville, Vaganova, even Preobrazhenskaya had different arms, but Legat really tries to focus on the transition of the legato, like Kozlova. So he will use those numbers throughout his on the upper brow, which was nice. And in Legat, they never start in an effacé position, always quasi. And they have very intricate steps that are no longer used today, which I tried to tackle, but it didn't come natural to me because they're like forgotten steps. Just like Karsavinas writes in her books, a lot of intricate footwork that is no longer.
We lost you.
On the pure position. Very virtuosic, like Andrei Pulevsky, if you have the time to see any videos. Amazing battery, amazing like ballon, and the way he holds himself in the air. You can see that in many old Russian films, especially the male virtuoso dancing with a lot of battery, change of steps and change of directions, which we all kind of are familiar to Bournonville. It's more that aesthetic too. Okay.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that the problem with all these lost steps or lost combinations is that they made up the work of great choreographers. And the problem when we lose these combinations is that we lose the choreography performance as well. I mean, we're losing the choreographic material and the movement style of the time. So, for example, in the case of Ashton, it's very obvious that people have real difficulties nowadays in performing Ashton properly because of all the épaulement, all the intricacy of they can't do it. They can't do it. They were more interested in movement. That is something that Geraldine Morris always says. They were more interested in the movement quality rather than just the perfect execution of every single step. And that is something that we are losing or we have lost. And that applies to Balanchine as well, curiously enough, because he trained in that same system.
It's true. So to say, the use of enchaînement is kind of gone, you know. Like, I think, well, Elena Matamoros has a beautiful way of explaining the Bournonville school, which is actually the old French school, the way that not in the center, the enchaînement was not actually just a technical step, like it was not just made out of pirouettes or grand battement or allegro steps. It was a combination of everything. And then Legat you have the same. You know, you have a lot of change of dynamics, and it's not just simple steps. It's the way you use the body and connect them with the pas de liaison together with, you know, more either virtuosic steps or, you know, terre à terre steps. You have many different ways. And I think that's the color that we also would like to have more in classes that challenge not only the body, but the brain. And so that we can use this material also for choreographic work.
There is a very interesting video, I don't know if you've seen it, that Geraldine Morris did on the syllables of Ninette de Valois and how that got into Ashton's work. And what she does, she puts, have in the video, in which the students, present students, trying to execute those steps and the difficulties that they have in getting those, the qualities of the movement and the combinations, the speed, the dynamics, the phrasing. It's quite amazing. And it's very interesting, the interviews at the end to the students, because I think that they're very telling about what we're doing.
I had, in a way, a similar, well, of course not so grand than Geraldine, but I've been working on the 3-shade variations from Bayaderka, from the notation scores, and the dancers had such difficulties with the fast use of the point shoes and the strong sense of using you know, a bit more muscular work, not so long-limbed and like elastic as we use now, and especially the tempo, like to do very hard, very quick steps in very short time.
Yeah,
I had to adapt a lot of the steps that were notated because it wasn't possible at that stage. So it's a bit struggling sometimes. Yes, I can understand.
And also, I think because the dancer at the time, as we were saying before, they were shorter in size.
they were fast.
I mean, the fast movement are much easier for somebody that is a short size than somebody that's very tall. It's a question of physics.
Absolutely.
You know? So that is also very important, and as they could do very fast, very everything's very fast because they were small, and the legs were shorter and much stronger. Let's say perhaps Anna Pavlova was the first really very elegant, beautiful, long line as a dancer. But at the time, it was considered to be weak. It was not the model, you know, but she was so elegant, so beautiful. So, and that is that I think that when we reconstruct the sequence, dance sequence, ballet sequence of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century too, we have to keep in mind the size of the dancers, and that there was a lot of work in fast because it was the technique was different. They were using again a corset, which doesn't allow to make all the work of jump of legs as it was today. I mean, that is very, very, very important, I think. That's why the today dancer had the difficulties, because I have not been trained with this technique, you know, and that is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
the tempo is different.
Tiziana, we were in Berlin to see the Ratmansky Bayadère version.
Exactly.
And
what we said.
Alexei said many things were not possible, and now that I've also seen 3 solos from Bayadère, it wasn't possible for me either to make the dancer do what I wanted, because if the notation says she has to jump and be diagonal in the air in a fermé, you know, you have to decide either you cannot be behind in black and, you know, like trying to make it work. You have to also let the dancers dance. You cannot, like, sometimes we have to be less scientific. We have to let the dancers use the material.
And also, if you remember, in Ratmansky Bayadère, there were some sequence of steps which we don't do anymore. I mean, nobody does anymore. I mean, a very beautiful, you know, combination of steps, which are not more part either of the repertoire, either of the bar, either in the center. We don't do anymore, which was very interesting to see. Very interesting combination.
Échappé on point in demi-plié, that is no longer there.
Exactly. And
at the time, it looked very neoclassical.
Also the point, they were not doing everything on point. Many things were done. What we do now in point was not done in point. And the shoes, I will say also one thing, ballet shoes now are very hard. Very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very, they were not like that, even in my time, which is not the 19th century, but anyway, they were much, very flexible, more flexible. At the beginning, when they were hard, but they were more flexible. The poor girls today, I don't know how they do it. It's horrible. I mean, they are terrible, these ballet shoes. They're very, very stiff, you know? So you have really to, with the hammer. So this a change the technique, how you stay. And also they were not keeping very straight the knees. So it was much, so technique was different.
Mm-hmm. Very Italian in that way, very Cicchetti.
Exactly. What these, and also these renversés, this beautiful renversé. Some, I mean, in fact, I think this reconstruction by Vikarev and Ratmansky now is wonderful, because we get maybe a flavor of what could have been at the time. And also the possibility of expression. Because I think that today the technique is so hard, so difficult technically for the dancer, that you have to be so concentrated to do not lose balance. That, it's rarely that you find the dancer relaxed with comfortable, expressing, because the poor girls, it's so difficult, the technique today. Level. Which,
not only the technique, but I think, and with the arrival of Instagram, which would be another debate, the expectations from the audience have changed.
Yes, that's true.
Because now everybody expects to see the 180 degrees leg, and everybody expects to see I don't know how many pirouettes, and they know. and the dancers know, even though maybe, you know, 3/4 of the theaters would not expect it, because they are being brought up with Instagram and these, you know, people doing 11 pirouettes, 12 pirouettes, jumping like mad. That is what they think are competing against, and that is what they're training for. And I think that is a problem at the moment. But that's another debate.
So you are right. Maybe because I'm getting old, I'm thinking. But it's not, but I mean, I really see wonderful things under this, but I think that as I've seen so much changes in technique, even in my own time, so we can imagine how it was before. I mean, how could that have been? But it's normal too also. It's a normal too also. Anyway.
Thank you. Thank you, Irina, for hosting this wonderful event. Спасибо большое.
Thank you, Irina. Thank you to all the other speakers. Wonderful. We learn a lot.
Okay, we will finish this season and see you next temporary.
Next season.
Next season.
When is that? When?
From October.
October.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And we will see in October the next time.
That will be nice.
Fine. Enjoy the summertime.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Irina. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Karina. Thank you, Marina. Thank you to everybody.
Everybody.
And thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Adiós, encantados.
Ana,
A todos.
Encantados.
Wow. It was a great debate.
It was a long
You
one.
know,
It was long.
I wanted to ask something which has got really nothing to do with this, but in Russia, do you still use mirrors in the dance class?
Yeah.
You always use mirrors.
Not like it.
No, it's just that in another conversation with some friends, we didn't have mirrors in my school.
No, London?
In Bush Davis, maybe one, but we were talking about how dancers can't manage without a mirror.
Of course they have to.
I know, but they found there's a